Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here as we talk about 14 French things that I still haven't adapted to. I've been in France for a year and a half now, so I feel like that gives me some good understanding to complain about, discuss the items that we're going to talk about today. I'm interested to see your comments about whether or not you knew these things about France, or if it kind of surprised you, and if you think that I'm overreacting about these things that are difficult to adapt to. Also, apologies if you can't already tell, I am kind of sick. But I wanted to film a video anyway, so you're just gonna have to deal with my raspy voice. Without further ado, let's get into it. Number 1, KFC in France absolutely sucks. Wow, Bonnie, what a very insightful point to start with. True, but it really does suck, and for one major reason, and that is they don't have original recipe chicken. This is literally the only reason anyone would go to KFC, right? Like, no two-piece feed, nothing. I know franchises adapt what they sell based on the country, but original recipe chicken is iconic. So all you can get at KFC in terms of straight up chicken is just tenders and hot wings, but obviously they're not actually spicy because French people and spicy don't go together. After my investigation on the interwebs, I found this beautiful map, and it just seems like KFC is just not popular in France. So if you're over here in France and you want some fast food, save your money and go to Macca's, or is it McDo or Domac? McDonald's to get a McBaguette. Before continuing on this potentially controversial list of things that I haven't adapted to in France, I wanted to talk about one thing that I have adapted to for the most part, and that is the French language. And this is largely thanks to Lingoda, an online language learning school. They provide subscription-based classes in English, French, German, and Spanish, but they are most widely known for their sprints. And if you don't know what their sprints are, it's basically a language learning intensive for 2 months, so 60 days, and you have a 1-hour class every single day for those 60 days. The classes are with a professor in a small group, maximum 5 students, I believe, so there's not too many people in the classes. But the coolest thing about the sprints is that if you attend every single class for the 60 days without missing a single one, you get a full refund from everything that you paid. When I first learned about this, when I was first starting to learn French, I was like, this is too good to be true, right? But I can confirm because I successfully completed one of their language learning sprints. I've made a couple videos about how I actually won the sprint and kind of how I prepared and things like that, so I'll leave those videos in the description if you want to check them out. It really helped boost my French, especially my confidence while speaking, and they have over 1,500 teachers to choose from, all while being 24/7 wherever in the world you can access these classes. On top of that, all of the material is provided, you can download it, and you know that it's being created by professionals, so you are learning things in the correct order, like in school. This is what your dashboard looks like if you do check out Lingoda. Basically, you're able to see all of your classes, your progress, all of the teachers that you liked, and then to book classes, it's super easy. You just go over to booked classes, and here you can literally pick any level you want, any day you want, any time of the day, and if it's group or private. So if you're really looking to level up your language learning, I will leave some discount codes in the description. You'll get 20 euros or $25 off of your sprint registration and 30% off of all of their other types of courses. They do sprints every 2 months, so if you miss out on the upcoming one, no worries, you can do the next one. I'll also link my social media and some other videos you might like below. And lastly, if you feel yourself enjoying this video, feel free to give it a like. And if you like language learning and travel content, you might want to think about potentially, maybe, subscribing to my channel. Now, let's continue. The second thing that I haven't quite adapted to yet is how just the quantity of boulangerie that exist here. Boulangerie, you probably already know, but it's just French bakeries basically, and they are literally on every single corner. If you go into a shopping center, for example, and there's 5 restaurants, 3 of those will be a bakery. At first, it was the best thing ever, like fresh baguette sandwiches every day, pastries, but unfortunately it does start to get a bit old. Although in saying that, if I go 1 week without a baguette, I start to get a bit hangry. Next up, the famous crève, and honestly, I don't know how French people pronounce the R when they're sick because it's a struggle. Or strikes in English. The French are pretty well known for their strikes all across the world, and maybe you've even heard of the yellow jackets. A couple of years ago, you couldn't drive anywhere without getting a roadblock. I even accidentally found myself walking in one of their marches. I couldn't speak French back then. There always seems to be strikes from transport companies like the train company, the metro, and recently the buses. And as little as a week ago, my flights got cancelled because the air traffic control in Marseille went on strike. And the fourth thing, not fourth, is the old systems here. This one, guys, is pretty rough to deal with. I mean, I don't want this video to sound like I'm complaining, it's just things I haven't gotten used to yet. And I'll give you an example of exactly what I'm talking about. So a few months ago, I went to sign up for a gym and I couldn't sign up. Do you guys know why I couldn't sign up to the gym? Because I didn't have any checks. I don't think I've ever seen a checkbook in my entire life, and they're still using them in France. So what would one might do in this situation? Call your bank? Wrong. Unfortunately, banks are the bane of my existence in France. Well, alongside the préfecture, but that's another video. If you want to do anything to do with your bank in France, whether it's change your password, increase, your how much you can spend on your card, anything at all, you have to physically go into the bank. In Australia, it's way more modern. You can literally just do everything online. And there was one time when I actually did have to go in because I was cancelling all of my accounts and draining all of them because this is when I was moving to France. And I literally just FaceTimed them. I suggest if you're coming to live in France, get a free online bank and don't deal with none of this. This next one is kind of a serious one, and that is the French people's profound love for cats. I've yet to find a single French person who doesn't love cats. In Australia, I would say that we are mostly dog people, and I literally even looked up some statistics for this, and in Australia we have 5 million dogs and 4 million cats, whereas in France they have 7.5 million dogs and over 15 million cats. France has the second largest domestic cat population in all of Europe and 5th largest in the world. With that being said, I think the following video sums this up pretty well. It's this French lady who basically bought a cat in her handbag from France to the UK.
At Liverpool Airport, a woman who's flown in from Paris on her way to Malaga for a holiday has been pulled over by security.
This is the problem. I didn't saw on the internet that the cat are forbidden. So I take it as a classic luggage. It's a cat, old cat.
The cat now has to go into quarantine.
No. So, the cat must go. Alors là, mais allez vous faire. Mais alors, non mais ça va pas. Non mais vous êtes malade.
Delphine is having none of it. There's no way she's going to allow Koshka to go into quarantine.
Look at this! I'm a big terrorist with my cat! Look at it!
It's not
3 persons! Just for me, 3 persons for a cat! That's ridiculous! They pay everything for me and for the cat and for the custom and for everything. And they will send me the cat by plane to Roissy tomorrow.
The next one is being able to buy alcohol from a grocery store. If you guys don't know, in Australia we have something called a bottler or a bottle shop. I never asked myself why we have bottlers, so I did a little bit of research, and apparently it's to try to deter people from drinking. To be honest, I don't think it's very successful. Ironically though, in France, tobacco can't be sold in a grocery store, so they literally have a separate store called a tabac, whereas in Australia you can buy cigarettes in a grocery store. So it's like inverse. This next one is pretty frustrating, and it's that you can't buy drugs in a grocery store. Not even Panadol, not even ibuprofen, no hay fever tablets, no cold and flu medicine, no painkillers. So you're basically forced to go to a pharmacy, and pharmacies are closed over lunchtime. So yeah. I looked into why this is, and I found an interview with the French health minister, and she said basically if they started allowing grocery stores to sell over-the-counter drugs, that the pharmacies would start losing business, and we all know what's going to happen then. Even weirder, in these big grocery stores, they have these like fake pharmacies within the grocery store. It's called a pharmacy. It looks like a pharmacy, but they literally only sell like hand creams and sunscreen. Next up is restaurant tickets, or ticket resto. And basically, if you don't know what this is, for other people in Australia, your company essentially gives you these food vouchers and you're supposed to use it on going to the restaurant for lunch. And upon first hearing this, you're probably like, oh, that's a great idea, benefits for people to pay for food, and you're helping out local restaurants. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work out like that. Some restaurants and bakeries just straight up don't accept them, which, defeats the whole purpose. And some places even have a restriction on how many you can use, and this varies no matter where you go. If you're lucky enough to have a card like me, there is actually a limit on your card to how much you can use a day. There is a small silver lining, and that is you can use restaurant tickets at the grocery store, but, and this is a big but, is you can only use it on things that could be eaten right away. So any food that would require cooking or any frozen food, anything like that, you can't buy that basically with these tickets. But again, this differs for each and every shopping center. Like I said, I'm pretty lucky because my work gave me an actual card, but a lot of people, I want to say most people, but I don't actually know, but a lot of people, they have like a little booklet with the actual pieces of paper that you have to rip out one by one to be able to use. And the amount of times I have ripped one of these, and once they're ripped, you can't use it. And they're really difficult to get out too. It's like they want you to rip them. The ninth thing, I think it's ninth thing that I still haven't adapted to is the fact that there are no Ubers. Now, this obviously isn't true in Paris, but in my town of almost 500,000 people and the capital of Normandy, there is not a single Uber. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out why we don't have Ubers here. So it would probably be reasonable to assume that since there's no Ubers, the taxi system would be really, really good here, right? Wrong again. Number 10, and that's mini cars. Don't have a license? No problem in France. Just get yourself a VSP, voiture sans permis, and you can drive wherever you'd like. It's a really small two-seater car that anyone from the age 14 and above can drive with as little as 4 hours behind the wheel. And sometimes not even that. And it's very strange to me because they're still technically little cars, right? They're still on the road. They learn all the traffic signs, everything. In France, you have to weigh your fruits and vegetables. What? In Australia, you can just do it when you get to the cash register, or the cashier can do it for you. On top of this, every time you weigh stuff in France, it prints you out a big sticker to basically scan when you do get to the registers. If you just want to buy even one apple, one piece of fruit, you still have to get a sticker on it. And the reason I'm not adapted to this yet is sometimes I do still forget that I need to weigh it, and then I get to the cash register, so I run back, quickly do it while the line builds up, everyone's dead staring at you because you idiot expat didn't weigh your fruit. Next up is the number of courses during dinner. This really caught me off guard at the beginning because generally in Australia, I'm sure a lot of other countries, you basically just have one meal and maybe dessert. And this is actually something I love now, but at the beginning, I would always just eat loads the first 2 courses, and I would be full by the 3rd course, and then we're at the 8th course and I'm literally dying. Another thing is just the number of castles and old buildings here. I find myself walking around and I'm just like mind blown because this is not something that I'm used to in Australia. Just these huge castles. I'll whack in a photo of one trip that I was on recently, and there was just like this biggest castle I've ever seen in my life. And that brings me to my last point, and maybe the most controversial, and that is the French food. I'm sorry to all the French people watching this, don't come for me because I did make an effort. I have tried lots of stuff that I love, but there are just a few things that I'm looking at you guys still and I'm like, how can you eat that? The first one being blood sausage, and just the name alone, before I even tasted it, I knew I was not gonna like this. But the taste, it literally tastes like grainy blood. I should have mentioned disclaimer, this is my own taste. Sorry if you love blood sausage, but there's something wrong with you. Another one that I just cannot grasp yet is duck liver, and I'm so sorry. I know it's like a specialty here, but just, I'm not quite there yet. Maybe with time. And the last thing that I just cannot understand how you beautiful French people eat this is the andouillette. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Let me just double check.
Andouillette.
And this is basically a sausage made from just straight up intestines. It is got the absolute worst smell I've ever smelled in my life. It smells like rotten flesh, basically. But what surprises me the most is not how gross this is, it's how often it's actually on the menu. Because I can say, oh, escargot, kind of gross, but they're not that common. But this seems to be on a lot of menus, and I'm just super confused. And I did taste it once, and guess what? It tastes exactly how it smells. And that brings us to the end of the video. If you're looking for any language learning materials, my social media, or any other videos that you might enjoy, check out the description. And thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.